Prom is one of the most memorable events when growing up. From dressing your best to gaining up enough courage to ask that special someone, it should be a night that's looked back on fondly. Unfortunately for some, prom night might just be their last night. Sanchez was a 16-year-old girl with tremendous potential. A brilliant girl, Marin was an honor student at her high school in Connecticut, and she couldn't have been more excited to attend prom. She took photos in her prom dress and posted on Facebook exclaiming how excited she was for what should have been one of the best nights of her life. Marin was known as a bubbly, magnetic type of person who was very easy to get along with. One friend of hers was a 16-year-old boy named Christopher Plaskin. Christopher was known as being a bit weird but friendly. He played football and was considered to be a class clown. Christopher, at some point, began thinking of Marin as more than a friend and decided that he was going to ask her to the prom. But as most people are, he was afraid she would turn him down. So he had a plan for that. One no one saw coming. On the day of prom, Christopher met with Marin in the stairwell and asked her to prom with him. Marin said no, as she was already going with someone else. Christopher's dread of being rejected was then realized, so he did what he felt he had to do. He withdrew a blade and began slashing and stabbing Marin, cutting her neck. Marin, who was in fit shape, fought back as hard as she could, but it was to no avail. Her wounds claimed her life. Minutes later, covered in blood, Christopher freely admitted what he had done. Christopher's legal team will be pursuing an insanity defense, as Christopher claimed that demons were the ones who urged him to kill Marin. A photo taken of a girl smiling in her dress, unaware of the fate that was soon to come. That's what Megan Postins' mother deals with often. Looking back on the photo of her daughter the night of prom in 2005, little did she know that Megan, along with 3 other friends, would be mercilessly gunned down that night. The 4 friends were all standing outside early in the morning after prom festivities were over. Out of the 4 friends, Megan attended prom with Michael Dillon. It was believed the other 2 hadn't attended. Megan and Michael were supposed to be at a lock-in inside of the school after the prom, but their names weren't on the registry list, so they left. A neighbor beside the home where the 4 teenagers stood outside of was awoken suddenly by gunshots. A 12-year-old girl in the home looked out her window and saw 2 bodies on the ground. Megan was still standing, pleading with the killers not to shoot her. More gunshots rang out, and Megan begged not to be killed. She was shot dead right after. All 4 teenagers died. 4 crosses now remain outside where they spent their final moments alive. Though police had their suspects, the killer or killers have not been found. It's believed one woman named Bunny Holmes had ordered the murder over a drug dispute with one of the teenagers, and the others had been murdered to keep them from identifying the shooter. But Bunny denies having anything to do with it and is currently serving a life sentence for the murder of another young woman in 2008. It is currently unknown as to whether or not Megan and Michael had anything to do with a drug deal that might have been in progress. The case remains open. A parent's rules are often good for their children, but that doesn't mean the children are going to like them. In 1989, Jeff Pelle was preparing not only for prom, but for a dinner before the prom and an outing the day afterwards. Jeff's father, Bob, a reverend, forbid his son from attending anything other than the prom, and some sources claim he wasn't even going to let Jeff attend the prom at all, as he had been in trouble for stealing. Bob was well known as a strict parent and wouldn't allow Jeff to even drive himself to the prom. If Jeff got to go, his father was going to be the one to drive him. Bob told friends that he even removed certain parts of the car so Jeff would be unable to drive it. Jeff was less than pleased by this, to say the least. Jeff had a bit of a rough relationship at home. His father, Bob, had been married to a woman named Dawn who had 2 daughters of her own. Jeff and Dawn didn't have much of a relationship beyond tolerating one another. There was a certain level of resentment in the home between the 2 families, made one by marriage. Prom night came and Jeff's date was a bit shocked to find him waiting at her door ready to pick her up by himself. Jeff claimed his father had a change of heart, something his father wasn't at all known for after making a parental decision. He was a little late arriving, but other than that, the two went to prom together freely. The day after prom, the church was concerned when Jeff's family, especially his father, didn't show up for the sermon. This was highly uncharacteristic, so one of the elders of the church took a walk to Bob's house and found the door locked, curtains drawn. This wasn't how the minister normally kept his home, and the elder immediately began to get a sinking feeling. Unlocking the door, he stepped inside to find Bob dead on the floor of a gunshot wound. After calling police, he discovered Bob's wife and her two daughters, aged 6 and 8, dead at the foot of the basement stairs. They had all been shot with a shotgun. Bob had been shot twice. His stepdaughters had both been executed at close range. Jeff was obviously a prime suspect in the murders. It took around 2 decades before enough evidence was obtained and prosecutors felt comfortable enough to convict. From witnesses placing Jeff at the scene at the time of the murders to Bob's shotgun that went missing from the gun rack when it was on the rack just before the murders, a jury found Jeff guilty. He was sentenced to 160 years in prison, 40 years per victim. Jeff maintains his innocence to this day and is appealing his conviction. That's all for now. Remember, you may not believe it, but anything is possible in a world so seriously strange. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next episode of Seriously Strange, and I'll see you next time.